Kremlin insists Ukraine's settlement must be reached with Kiev, not Washington. France accuses Russia of blocking Ukraine's ceasefire and launching cyber attacks. And the US weighs the scrapping security coordinator role for the West Bank and Gaza. You're watching Q News, and this is the news bulletin. The Kremlin has stressed that any settlement to the Ukraine conflict must be reached directly with Kiev, not Washington. It described the crisis as highly complex and cautioned that a resolution will take time. The Kremlin said President Vladimir Putin remains open to negotiations and supports a ceasefire, but insists that unresolved issues must first be addressed. Moscow reiterated its commitment to achieving all military objectives, preferably through peaceful means. Ukraine's Navy has retrieved and detonated a Russian FAB-500 bomb found off the coast of Odessa. The device was located 20 meters underwater and was safely transported to shore for controlled detonation. Ukraine's Navy claims such bombs were previously dropped by Russian aircraft targeting grain export corridors. Russia and North Korea have launched construction of a new road bridge across the Tumen River to deepen bilateral ties. The 850-meter bridge will link to Russia's highway system and is located near the existing 1959 railway bridge known as the Friendship Bridge. The project follows President Putin's 2024 visit to North Korea and aims to expand regional cooperation. The Kremlin has said President Vladimir Putin remains open to a political solution in Ukraine, but the complexity of the conflict limits the pace of negotiations with Washington. Russia insists that its objectives must be met, though it still prefers a peaceful resolution. No formal response has been received from Kiev regarding Putin's proposal for direct talks. A wave of Russian drone strikes hit the southeastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro, killing one person and injuring another. Fires were reported across the city as authorities confirmed that 9 drones were destroyed overnight. The attack coincided with Washington's warning that it would step back from mediating peace efforts unless both sides offer concrete proposals. Russian drones struck Ukraine's northeastern city of Kharkiv, wounding 45 people, including 2 children and a pregnant woman. The overnight attack left parts of the city in flames and forced residents onto the streets. Emergency teams cleared debris, while officials noted that several districts were targeted. Kharkiv's population has dropped from nearly 2 million to 1.2 million since the war began. Russia says its air defenses downed a Ukrainian Su-27 fighter jet and destroyed 189 drones in the last 24 hours. The Defense Ministry also claimed to have captured the Dorozhovka in Kharkiv region and repelled Ukrainian offensives across Sumy, Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson. Ukraine confirmed intense battles and reported targeting 16 Russian military sites. France has accused Russia of obstructing a ceasefire in Ukraine and conducting cyber attacks against French institutions. Speaking at a UN Security Council session, Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot said Russia remains the main obstacle to peace. While Russia announced a temporary truce from May 7th to May 11th, Ukraine dismissed the gesture as insincere. And now we move on to the latest developments in Gaza. Israeli media report that the U.S. proposed Gaza deterioration plan is not progressing as hoped by Israeli military leaders. So far, only countries seeking to evacuate their own nationals have submitted requests, according to the Israeli commanders. Israeli media have revealed that a large number of officers and soldiers are refusing to take part in any expanded military operation in Gaza. Security assessments warn that escalation could endanger Israeli detainees and lead to high military casualties. Israeli President Isaac Herzog has called for an inquiry into the security failures of October 7th last year. Herzog said internal political strife has weakened national security, stressing that the return of detainees remains a top priority. And further analysis, we are joined from Amman by the political analyst, Mr. Adel Mahmoud. Mr. Mahmoud, welcome to Q News. Sir, how do the reported refusals of the Israeli soldiers to engage in Gaza operations affect the Israeli military and political leadership?
Good evening to you and to all the viewers. Regarding the military institution, Israel is stalling due to opening different combat forefronts. Israel as a state, with the support of the United States, as the US is the one issuing the policies, as Israel is a tool and used by the United States, and all of these rebellions and divisions inside Israel is only a means to submit the Israeli administration to, in spite of the Trump calls to legitimize its processes regarding the neighboring countries, the West Bank and Gaza, meaning that the military institution in Israel is not used to long-term wars. The surveys among the Israelis reached 71% requesting to end the war. So the divisions inside the Israeli society is now moving from the military institution to the people, meaning that all of the indicators are indicating that Israel is suffering from these internal divisions, but it's not yet the phase of deterioration. Israel is not crumbling yet. They still have more plans and schemes to carry on with. We do not know when the war is going to end because it is directly linked to the Israeli objectives and continuing its and expanding to its real borders. There have been a military operations taking place for a month. We listened, we talks about the truth, but none of these talks were actually feasible. Of course, the military institution is witnessing contradictions and disagreements on the political level. Taking back the decision of overthrowing the head of the Shabak, it is a decision from the inside, the Israeli inside, and this indicates that the deep state is directly linked to the US decision. And Netanyahu indicated during his speech that these four fronts are open with the support of the United States, meaning that this confusion is only temporary, and as I have stated before, that Netanyahu will leave the scene, and who is coming is not necessarily better. There will still be wars, because the United States of America is not fighting their own wars, but they are using Israel. In the Yemen war, Israel did not participate because the United States is worried about regarding such a step.
Mr. Mahmoud, now given the increasing humanitarian impact and the stalled military strategies, how viable is Israel's current approach in Gaza?
I think that the true Israeli objective is very clear. Regarding the humanitarian pressure, aims only to submit the Palestinian resistance, reaching the voluntary or forcibly displacement, because the United States schemes, which are not necessarily the desires of the US president, is turning Gaza into an Israeli point. They wanted to reach to start working in Gaza from scratch. That's why the starvation taking place. The real pressure is not on Hamas, but on the regular citizen holding on to the land, and that's why the contradictions and the different scenarios that we see every day. We listen about progress taking place regarding the negotiations, but there are US efforts through, and also the Turkish mediator, in addition to the Egyptian and Qatari sides. There has been statements from Hamas to the US regarding a truce. In the written letters, they met in Turkey and they will meet in Doha, and this aims at a temporary ceasefire for to pave the way for the American president's visit, and also to leave space for the US Iranian negotiations. Of course, this is some kind of progress, but the question is, when will the war end? The war of displacement, and the US will not leave the objective, let alone Israel. The understandings regarding a comprehensive, complete ceasefire are different, and both parties, Hamas and Israel, do not have common grounds to agree on a ceasefire, and we do not have any grounds for an Israeli full withdrawal from Gaza, except in the case of the objective of the Israeli military is not returning the detainees, but there is no political or military clear objectives now. The only objective is to stall any kind of truce or ceasefire agreement. There might be a temporary one, but if they do not go to the demarcation of new borders, and they keep on forward.
Yes.
They keep going forward with the schemes to displace the population from the West Bank to Jordan and from Gaza to Egypt.
From our men, that was the political analyst, Mr. Adil Mahmoud. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on Q News. An Al-Qahira news correspondent has confirmed that the death toll from the ongoing Israeli attacks on Gaza has risen to 23. Among the dead are 8 Palestinians killed in 3 airstrikes on Nusayrat refugee camp. Several others were injured when an Israeli drone bombed a tent sheltering displaced civilians in the camp. Separately, 3 were killed in Jabalia following a strike on a home. Axios has reported that U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is considering eliminating the role of security coordinator for the West Bank and Gaza as part of a broader State Department restructuring. Sources from the U.S., Israel, Palestine, and Arab nations warn the move could further destabilize the West Bank amid the Gaza conflict. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has urged an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, labeling the humanitarian crisis as catastrophic. Barrot condemned the ongoing Israeli strikes and stressed the urgent need to end civilian suffering. He also criticized the blockade on aid, noting over 1,300 deaths since March, including many civilians. He called on Israel to lift restrictions and allow unhindered humanitarian access to alleviate Gaza's dire conditions. The United Nations top court convened for a 3rd day of hearings on Wednesday to examine Israel's legal responsibilities and on ensuring humanitarian aid reaches Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The International Court of Justice in The Hague heard submissions from the United States, Israel's key ally and largest arms supplier. The U.S. argued that while Israel must allow humanitarian assistance, it is not specifically required to permit the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, to carry out aid operations.
The General Assembly.
Iran's parliament has said there is no evidence of foreign involvement in the recent explosion at the Rajai port. It clarified that the affected warehouses had no links to defense or military activities and confirmed there were no signs of sabotage. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has declared that the Israeli military is committed to preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Katz further emphasized the goal is to decisively defeat Tehran without compromise and to eliminate any current or future threat to Israel. Iran's UN mission rejected French claims that Tehran is close to acquiring nuclear weapons. The delegation reaffirmed its commitment to diplomacy and the Non-Proliferation Treaty as the framework for resolving nuclear disputes.
Islamic Republic of Iran. I'm in constant contact with Ambassador Witkoff.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced that the 4th round of nuclear talks with the U.S., mediated by Oman, will be held Saturday in Rome. Araghchi added that the meeting will include France, the UK and Germany, all parties to the 2015 nuclear agreement. And now we head to the latest of updates in Syria. Syrian state TV has reported that 16 members of the public security forces were killed in an armed attack targeting a security facility in Sahnaya near Damascus. A security source said armed groups spread through farmland in the Damascus countryside and opened fire on civilians and public security vehicles. The Interior Ministry pledged to hold those responsible accountable and warned it will act firmly against any attempt to destabilize the country. U.S. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce confirmed that Washington is not currently pursuing diplomatic normalization with Syria. She also added that the U.S. continues to cautiously reassess its Syria policy and will judge the Syrian interim authorities by their actions.
Where concrete proposals need to be delivered by the two parties on how to end this conflict.
In the Sarajevo suburb of Butmir, a Belgian shepherd named May and her trainer are honing skills to detect mines and unexploded ordnance, part of a global effort led by the Norwegian People's Aid Center to tackle landmines in post-conflict zones. These specialized dogs have been deployed to Cambodia, Zimbabwe, Iraq, and more recently to Ukraine, now considered the most heavily mined country in the world. Since Russia's 2022 invasion, landmines have devastated Ukraine's agricultural output and are estimated to cost over $11 billion in lost annual GDP. The demining dogs are supporting operations in regions like Kharkiv and Mykolaiv, often working near active front lines. In Bosnia, the legacy of the 1990s war still affects nearly 15% of the population due to widespread mine contamination. The world's tallest and shortest dogs met for the first time earlier this month in Idaho in a gathering organized by Guinness World Records. 7-year-old Great Dane Reggie from Idaho stands at just over 1 meter tall, while 4-year-old Chihuahua Pearl from Florida measures only 9.14 centimeters. The pair have a remarkable height difference of more than 90 centimeters. Photos released by Guinness, which is marking its 70th anniversary this year, show the two dogs together indoors and outdoors at Reggie's home. The meeting highlighted the unique bond between pets and their owners, with both dogs drawing attention for their extraordinary size records. Boston Dynamics humanoid robot Atlas is set to begin trial operations later this year at Hyundai Motor Group's manufacturing facility in Georgia. The all-electric robot, designed to perform complex tasks such as sorting car parts and lifting heavy loads, will be tested at the Meta plant to assess its capabilities in real-world industrial environments. Atlas, revealed in its electric form in April 2024, features custom-built motors that allow it to run, crawl, and perform advanced movements. Boston Dynamics says the robot is built to handle physically demanding tasks that are often unsuitable for human workers. The trial marks a major step in integrating robotics into automotive production, and advancements in artificial intelligence continue to enhance the potential of physical automation. A man drove his red Jeep off a jetty in Western Australia on Wednesday, narrowly missing a police boat during a tense standoff with authorities. After the vehicle plunged into the water, the driver climbed onto the roof and remained there for a period while speaking to the police. He later jumped into the water, where he was apprehended and taken away by ambulance. Local reports suggest the vehicle may have been linked to an earlier traffic incident. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin, but here's a reminder of today's main stories. The Kremlin insists Ukraine settlement must be reached with Kiev and not Washington. France accuses Russia of blocking Ukraine's ceasefire and launching cyber attacks. And the US weighs a scrapping security coordinator role for the West Bank and Gaza. These are all the news we have for now, but please don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Q News EGY to stay informed. I'm Henny Safe. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.